Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dave, and we're the IB English guys. Welcome to this Revision Village exclusive, where we're looking at the May 2024 Paper 1, Time Zone 1, Text Number 1. And this is a piece of travel writing from a text called Notes from a Small Island.
That's right. We have the author Bill Bryson talking about his travel experiences as he hacks through the jungle, or hacks through the forest rather, in the UK, and discovers a beautiful mosaic. Mr. Giles, tell me about that word wonder.
Yeah, so the guiding question reads as follows. How does the writer convey his sense of wonder at the discovery in the text? So the word wonder, a sense of wonder, is a feeling of admiration or a feeling of awe or inspiration when he's looking at this like ancient Roman artifact in its natural setting, and he's exploring this market town of Cirencester, which is in the UK. It's interesting.
It's a fantastic text, full of rich language. What do you say we dive in and look at that first paragraph and talk about what we notice? The first thing I notice is just this rich idea of exploration. You know, we see the alliterative phrase, path plunged. We see rich imagery, overgrown wood, dark and primeval and feel. Like, this is really rich imagery, and I think that really sets off that wonder we were talking about.
It does. It shows effort. It shows hardship because he's struggling to get through this overgrown area because he's really excited to see that. We see this sort of first-person point of view that he's using throughout this text, which is, again, inherent in travel writing. He's giving us a sense of what he's doing. I like the verb hacked. I hacked through the growth with my stick. Again, hacked is a very active and aggressive verb because he's trying to get through this sort of dense undergrowth to get to, where his goal.
Mr. Giles, he's looking for a hidden treasure, right? And to get to that hidden treasure, we see that precise diction, wild ivy, right? And we see that carpet of wet leaves, sort of this very mystical environment that he's in, a really rich setting in this passage.
Yeah, there's imagery and there's also kind of metaphorical language, this carpet of wet leaves. It's very rich and it gives you those vivid details as a reader. We're there with Bryson. That's interesting. Then we see him reaching the goal. His goal is to find this ancient Roman villa, right? This ancient Roman house, and he discovers it, and he notices that the floor is carefully covered with plastic fertilizer bags.
Yeah, it's almost like this has been preserved. Someone has put forth great effort to keep this safe and out of the museum and in its natural space, right? And I love the syntax. There's this very short declarative sentence. This is what I had come to see, right? He's talking directly to the reader in this case. And we have the sense that he has reached his goal, he's reached the destination, and the hacking is done.
Yeah, this is a narrative, and now he's reached the goal, and then we see him describing this mosaic, and we see this exquisitely patterned and flawlessly preserved. Again, really rich diction and rich imagery to give us an idea of what this looks like. It's 5 feet, we see the size and the dimensions, and this is this beautiful mosaic that is in its natural setting. So that's the first part of the text.
Yeah. We move into the second paragraph here, the second portion of the text. I think we have a clear tone shift where he says, I cannot tell you how odd it felt, right? That's almost like, it's very intimate, that tone. It's almost confessional where he's talking directly to the reader. And I think we're going to see a feeling of nostalgia and great wonder he's going to feel.
Yeah. And there's a reflective tone, right? Because he's thinking about how he feels, and he's really wanting us to feel what he feels, and he's connected to the past. He says, like, I'm in this forgotten wood, and he's thinking about, what in one time, in an inconceivably distant past. He's trying to remember what it must feel like 1,600 years in the past of what this place would have looked like.
Yeah, and then I think we have this really nice contrast and juxtaposition where he's very pensive, and he's thinking about, these are things we typically see in museums, right? But perhaps in this sense of wonder, these don't belong in museums, Mr. Giles. They belong in their natural, this was a lived piece of art. It wasn't art. It was an everyday thing that people used.
That's right. I like he makes an allusion to a famous museum where a lot of these sort of ancient artifacts are housed, and he's drawing that contrast between something in its natural state and something that is in that museum. Not that museums are bad, but they're different. It's a different experience. And then we see him sitting for a long time on a stone, riveted with wonder and admiration. Great sentence.
Great sentence. It taps into that key word of the guiding question, wonder, right? And we've seen this process. We've gone from the hacking and the reaching of the destination to, wow, I need to sit and reflect. This is substantial. This is monumental. I feel a sense of wonder, and I want to think this through.
Yeah, and he's tapping into his imagination because he's trying to then imagine and transport himself in time, 1,600 years. He uses a little bit of humor because he's imagining, he has this thought of people in togas that are standing there chatting in vernacular Latin. He's thinking about the actual inhabitants of this house and that it's there. But then he compares that to the wonder of, wow, this thing is actually still intact. 1,600 years in the past, undisturbed and flawless.
Yeah, and I think this really leads nicely into the next paragraph, because you do see a sense of self-deprecating humor in a sense. He says, this may sound awfully stupid, but he sort of shares this epiphany that, hey, these things, as we said before, these aren't meant to be in museums, Mr. Giles. These were amazing things that were part of everyday Roman life.
Yeah, he is really thinking about the purpose of when humans create things that are meant to be used. They're not meant to be just stuck in a museum that's not used. So he's really sort of riffing on this idea. And then he has these because phrases in this parallel structure, because the mosaic was in its original setting, and because it's not roped off and inside a modern building, it's still radiantly, it's not just a diverting artifact. That's a powerful sort of moment where he's thinking about.
Yeah, and I think the implication, Mr. Giles, that sure, we can all go to museums and look at artifacts behind glass, but there's something to be said about going out and hacking through a forest and finding something in its natural habitat, its natural environment. And I think that's provided a much richer experience for the reader, or for the writer rather, and that's what Bryson's communicating.
That's right. And that it's about him reflecting and thinking. That's the powerful part of this passage. And then we see the conclusion where he decides to get up and he puts back the fertilizer bags. And I think that's, again, an act of respect, because he wants to preserve this and he's weighting them down with stones again. So he's leaving things as he found them, right? Leave it as you discovered it.
That's important. And I love the concluding part of this passage, because we see Bryson hacking his way again. We almost have we have a circular structure of this passage within a larger work.
Yeah.
This is a complete passage. So he's hacked his way in, he's visited, he's felt the wonder, the awe, and now he's going to hack his way back out. A perfect story.
Yeah. And we notice that the use of time, because now he's gone back in time to look at the mosaic, and at the very end, he's going back into the strange and careless place that is the 20th century.
Yeah, so folks, come on back for the next video. We'll go over a response. Again, we want to be thinking about how this sense of wonder and discovery is portrayed in the passage. Come on back, stay with us, and best of luck on this process.
Thanks, guys.